I'm looking forward to the season starting. I got some curiosity. I think they definitely address some needs. They'll have to be better internally. Guys will just have to be better. Luka, as great as Luka is, he's going to have to be better than what he was for the Lakers last year. I think Austin Reeves is going to have to know exactly what his role is. Obviously, they're going to need guys like Rui and Gabe and Vando, and everybody's going to have to be a little bit better. And it just, the West is that competitive. But I think one of the things that I am excited about this upcoming season, I think that they have the roster that they're going to have starting October 1st for training camp. That's not the roster that I think they're going to have by the time you get to the trade deadline. It feels like they got a ton of flexibility. They definitely have options. And if I start listing out some of the assets, because I think it's going to be important as we go, what are some of the assets to you that you feel like, hey, I'd really like to hold on to this asset or these assets? And what are some of the assets you're like, if that goes tomorrow, you're not losing any sleep over it?
Sounds good. You listen through
them? Okay, let me. I'll go with a couple that are, I think, a little bit more on the tougher side. Okay, because I think there's some that it's like, all right, it happens. What do you think of Rui? He's
Rui,
tougher.
Yeah,
Rui's a little weird. Tougher. Yeah,
because it depends what you get back. Like Rui at times can be the player that I think people looked at in the scouts and why he was a lottery pick. He has the size, he has the ability, he does have the ability to score at a high clip sometimes. But very he's not D'Lo, but he's very inconsistent sometimes. Sometimes when you feel like you need Rui to step up and be a legit scorer, he's not. And then when you kind of forget about Rui, then he comes up and becomes a big time scorer.
Can I say something about that? What you just said? That is the best way to describe Rui. When I'm not expecting anything from Rui, I get something. When I get excited about Rui, I get nothing. It's like it's like this. He'll just randomly through 3 quarters. I'm like, does he have 17 points and he's 7 of 9 from the field or whatever it is, right? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And then there are times where I'm like, okay, hey, yeah, Rui had a really good couple of games. I'm expecting someone that's like, yeah, he ain't there.
I also think with the Lakers getting bigger in terms of size, adding Ayton and even Vando, even like LaRavia is not a big player, but he's a bigger guard. I think he becomes more expendable because you weren't going to get rid of Rui when he had to drop down and play center because he was, at one point, the third biggest guy behind Jackson Hayes and LeBron. I mean, so it's like you really couldn't get rid of him. I do think the Lakers adding some size allows you to possibly deal him, but at the right price, I wouldn't just get rid of him. I do think Rui's a good player, but I wouldn't be devastated if the Lakers lost Rui Hachimura.
Okay, he's an interesting asset. That's why, I want to kind of throw him as one of the first ones up there because I think he's the one that you're hoping you're getting some good pieces back if Rui's on is one of the assets that you're getting rid of. Okay, connect.
I think he's extremely expendable because of LaRavia. Because you signed Jake LaRavia, and we'll obviously have Luka. Also depends what you do with Austin Reeves. He's very expendable in that I think he's extremely valuable to other teams because rarely do you see a guy who's 23 years old who can shoot that's going to be on the trade block. Now, I mean, people are always like he's kind of centered around the trade pieces. It is like Luka and LeBron for a year, however long LeBron's going to be here. You do need shooters. So you would think that you would want to keep the guy who is 23 and can shoot. But I do think what the Lakers did in the offseason allows you to move him, and he would probably be the center of most trade packages. Like, do you think he's a must-keep piece? Or
I don't think he's a must-keep. You know what I don't like about Connect? I think that we talked about this before. His value is – I don't know what his value is now. Unfortunately, there are times you'd like to sell – whatever you have if in the real estate world, it's like sell your house at the top of the market. If the market's not doing well and all of a sudden you're trying to list your house and everybody else is listing their house as well, you're like, I don't think I'm going to get what I'm hoping to get. That's my question with Connect is, did you have more value last year when you were trying to get rid of them? And I think it is better that they have them than they don't. But my question is, what is his value going to be?
It is also interesting how everyone kind of assumed, and this is probably what it was, that you got Luka, you're thinking you can win a championship and you need size. So you probably rushed a deal to try to get Mark Williams, who's young and Luka approved. There was also the thing about how early on guys weren't guarding don't connect. And he was just sitting in the corner shooting threes as a spot up, and he was excellent. Then there was like a stat where he was actually horrible. I don't have the stat in front of me, but moving off screens to shoot threes, moving while shooting a three, he was like shot a really low percentage. And the NBA kind of found that out. I think that's why
they're like, all right, that's how we'll guard him.
That's how we'll guard him. And so the Lakers may be thinking like, hey, let's trade him when his value is at his max. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully he can grow and then he can add some value. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
All right, here's some. I'm just going to go as we keep listening on some of these. Rui showed up in the playoffs. He can grab boards and hit open threes. I would stop on the grab boards. Honestly, he does not play his size. Like there are plenty of times where you look at Rui, you look at his size, you look at his physique. I'm like, man, this dude should be grabbing. He should be grabbing 7-8 boards a game, and it's just like nothing to even think about. That's not always the case. But here's obviously somebody that's in the certainly a fan of Rui. Here's the problem with Thero. And Thero, I do think they're going to try to develop and see what they got with him. You just what can you really ask from a rookie? And it's almost the same thing with Dalton Connect. Like, it's not fair to ask for some of these players for true production, but we'll see on the Thero side. Okay, let me keep going here. Gabe Vincent.
He has not lived up to what everyone thought he was going to be. It felt like Miami knew when he shot, like 42% from three or something like that in the playoffs on that run, that was probably the peak he was going to be.
He was.
And considering his injury history, that I would have no problem moving on from Gabe Vincent.
Yeah, I think Gabe's an easy one for me too. I think Gabe's, if you told me right now, I think Connect, cool. If Connect's in a deal, I'm not, it's fine. If Gabe Vincent's in a deal, fine. The real question is going to be, what do other teams, are they going to care about Gabe? Well, they'll care about him just because it's an expiring contract. What are they going to care about with Connect? Okay, if it's a young team and they're like, listen, we like playing up and down the floor, we want a player like this, I could see some value in that. All right, let me kind of keep going on this list here because I think there's a couple left that I want to get your opinion on. What do you think of Kleba? What do you think of Maxey?
I want to see him because he actually wasn't that bad for the Mavs at times. And
every time I used to see him against the Lakers, I'm like, he's not bad.
No, he's not bad. There is, it's crazy that the only game he played in was the game 5 because, refused to play Jackson Hayes. Redick refused to play him. But I'm actually excited to see that. Luka knows him. He does add your kind of, 3-4 kind of in there. And back to the Rui conversation, he's not better than Rui. But another bigger piece that if there was a deal that came along for Rui that you liked would make it a little bit more, I think, easier to swallow trading him because you do have some size on your lineup where they just didn't have it before.
Yeah, Kleba, 33, will be 34 around February. His last couple of years, here's the concern. I mean, he hasn't played the most amount of games he's played in the last 4 years is 59 games, and that was 2021, 2022. So he's got a 37 in there, a 43, and last year played 34 games. Problem is he's just not available. So I think I have some curiosity on him. He's in a package, all good, no problem. He's another expiring contract. This one is a little bit interesting for me because I think he has some value, but I also started seeing his name in some of the rumors. Vanderbilt is, I think another asset that the Lakers have. And again, I think the good thing with most of these players is there is some kind of advantage of another team trading for them. Some of it could just be financial perspective. Some of it could be potential. And some of it could be like a guy like Vando, who I think can fit on a contender. I think if he's on, the right situation. But Vando, to me, my only issue is he's so one-sided that if he's not really, really contributing on the defensive side, he becomes more of an albatross. Yeah, you can say from an offensive perspective.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't trade Vando now because I think this is when his trade value is at his all-time lowest because of the injuries. People kind of forgot about him. On that run the Lakers had when they traded for him with D'Lo and everyone, he was a big piece. And to your point, like every championship team in the past few years has had a big-time defender available. Now, Marcus Smart's going to be that guy for the Lakers this year. But if you were able to deploy him and Vando, that gives you two guys. You could have someone on the floor at all times that is an excellent defender. And we know with Luka and Reeves that's really going to be necessary. I would keep Vando. If you could get if he could somehow stay healthy, I think Vando would be a really crucial piece, and you're looking for big time defenders. I think I wouldn't trade him unless some crazy package came along.
All right. So, part of the reason why we're having this conversation is because whatever the Lakers did in the offseason, they clearly addressed some needs. Nobody's going to know, is Ayton going to pan out? I don't know. Is Marcus Smart going to play 65 games? I have no idea. Are all these pieces going to fit? We'll have to wait and find out. But the good thing, I think, with the Lakers, and it's a conversation I've really had a couple different times, is they got assets. And at least these assets can do one of two things for them. It could either help them this year for this roster, or maybe there's a player that is disgruntled, wants out, and the Lakers think that they got a legitimate shot at him, and they're going to have to put together some type of a package. That includes draft compensation. That includes, a number of different things to make it happen. Thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.